Hi, Libra Sun and Rising. Welcome to your September 2023 Astro Update. It's Rena here. So I was going to say that September is a quiet month because it seemed like there weren't as many transits as there can be, but it actually has a lot of powerful energy because we have Jupiter, which is the biggest planet, going retrograde. We have Venus, your ruler, going direct, so that's good for you. And we also have the eclipse period that is coming up in October, which may be affecting some folks in September. And one of those eclipses is a solar eclipse in your sign, Libra. The first one in this pair of eclipses with your opposite sign, Aries. So that could definitely create some fireworks in your life in some way. So just keep that in mind, that there may be issues with the eclipse in your sign that affect you directly in your life, the direction you're going in general. And then the one that is happening in Taurus in October, that one affects your 8th house, which is a very intense kind of place because that's Scorpio's domain. So anyway, I'm not going to go too much into that because I'll talk about the eclipses in the forecast for October. But I just wanted to give a little preview. So Venus does go direct on the 3rd of the month, and it's at 12 degrees of Leo. Leo is the 11th house for Libra Sun and Rising, and so this can be good for anything social as well as even the money that you earn in general, because this is the house of gains. So it can directly be impacted by anything that you have maybe tweaked in this area. So an example is sometimes because of certain types of professions, and I would say for Libra, an example of this is if you work in sales, for instance, and you have Libra people tend to have a lot of charm, and they can probably sell, like they used to say, sell ice cubes to Eskimos, or Inuit, to be more updated in terminology. But the thing is that sometimes you may have second thoughts about the type of work that you're doing and the money that you're making from it. And even, Venus can be values as well, like what you're valuing currently. And yet Libra likes to live a nice life when it comes to material things, usually. I have not met a Libra minimalist yet. I'm sure they exist, but that idea of having beauty around you can certainly be a motivating force for that. But something may be decided within yourself that allows you to feel that how you're earning money is appropriate and you're good with it, and you may find that you have an increase because whenever a planet goes retrograde, there might be some restrictions temporarily. And in terms of friendships, if there was any kind of clash in terms of how you see things morally, if you want to call it that. I'm trying to think of how to say it, because when I talk about values, that's kind of what I mean. If you share values with the people that you hang around with. And the Venus, any kind of retrograde, it's going to bring it back to yourself. It's going to be internalized. It's not so much looking at the outer world and seeing where it needs to be improved, but kind of, challenging yourself to see things from a more personal way. On the 4th, the next day, Jupiter goes retrograde. So we have these two benefic planets, one of them going direct, but the other one going retrograde. Venus going retrograde doesn't mean that you will start to have bad luck in that area, which with Taurus is that 8th house that you're going to see the lunar eclipse on October 28th. It can simply mean that there is something like, again, it's almost similar to Venus because Jupiter can be your ethical framework or what have you, because Jupiter is more a moral influence as part of its influence being the ruler of the 9th house of Sagittarius, my sun sign, which happens to represent God, and especially I believe through organized religion and the dogma that each religion has about what is right and what is wrong and things like that. So Jupiter retrogrades in the 8th house, you're bringing this into yourself. Having planets transiting the 8th house is very interesting for Libra because part of the 8th house, this is Scorpio's domain, and part of it has to do with the shadow self. And I have said before that I believe that Libra having 8th house transits can be particularly trying for them because you guys really, I think that a lot of you probably need to do shadow work in terms of how you feel about what we would call negative emotions, for lack of a better word, or challenging emotions, such as anger, and anger can be rage, it can be grief, shame, all of these things. Libra wants other people to feel comfortable. You want harmony at all times, or maybe at all costs. You don't want to ruffle any feathers. You're not rebellious like your opposite sign of Aries, where, you could actually deliberately troll somebody simply to get a rise out of them. Libra wants to do the opposite of that. And you can feel this sense of maybe guilt if you get angry, so you try not to. And this isn't necessarily, this isn't good because you want to be able to express anger without having to be a rageaholic. That's not appropriate. That's not an appropriate way to express displeasure or anger or whatever. You can do so in a gracious manner, but if you don't do it, it's going to get buried, and that is the shadow self, because the person can engage in passive-aggressive activities or, behaviors, conversations. Again, Libra is not necessarily the type to use sarcasm even, but there has to be the acknowledgement of something, especially if you feel like you have been unfairly treated by someone. And maybe, like I said, since you had the Venus retrograde in your friendship sector, it might have been with friends, and you might have had a rift with a friend that was never fully discussed. Perhaps you just started avoiding that person, and then you finally kind of like fessed up why you were giving them the cold shoulder. So these kinds of things are very important for Libra people to embrace. And when you have your eclipses, you're going to have this be even more front and center, where no longer can you just try to I'm trying to think of the term. I was going to say charm your way out of something, but it really was about kind of smoothing things over. You can only smooth things over so much, and you're really just creating this rot within. I'm talking about, like, if it's, let's say it's a marriage, that the two people really need to kind of bare their souls with one another, but they're afraid to. Trust me, when that lunar eclipse happens in the 8th house, and that'll be the final one in Taurus, you might have to really face the music. And actually, that full moon in Aries is going to be in your opposite house, the relationship sector, so that could really be what's happening. But for a lot of you, the full moon may fall into your work sector, and the lunar eclipse next month may fall into your relationship sector, and that would make it much more dramatic, being a very powerful full moon. So getting back to all of this, Jupiter retrograde in the 8th house can be that, Jupiter in the 8th can sometimes be benefiting from an inheritance, okay? Or if you're going through a divorce, or you have a partner who is doing very well, it's benefiting through that other person or those people. But when Jupiter goes retrograde, something may not be happening, or you question your participation in it. Is it right for you? And that doesn't mean that you will not benefit from other people's money at some point, but it just may be that it has to be delayed. Sometimes you will question going after it. An example would be, let's say you're in the middle of a divorce, Libra, and you have a lawyer that's very cutthroat and who tells you, yeah, you can take this person to the cleaners, and you start to really have these pangs of guilt. That would be Jupiter speaking to you from an internalized position when Jupiter goes retrograde. And so then you decide, you know what, I'm going to let the universe handle this. I don't have to act like I'm just this greedy person who has no morals. And then you just kind of leave it alone. Maybe you withdraw something that you have demanded and see what happens. And you could still get blessed, but then you won't feel guilty about it, because you know that you weren't trying to push something that maybe wasn't all that ethical. Even if it was legal, it could still be unethical. So there could be something along those lines. Also, anything with esoteric belief systems could be featured here, where you're questioning. Maybe you're questioning organized religion and how it pertains to the occult, which the 8th house represents, metaphysics and that sort of thing. On the 14th, we have a new moon at 21 degrees 59 minutes of Virgo, which is basically 22 degrees of Virgo. Virgo is the sign and the house before you, Libra. So it is affecting that area that has to do with the, with solitude. This is Pisces domain, reflection, the hermit house, karma, past life influence, and so on and so forth. So a new moon here could be that you're going to take up some new spiritual practice like meditation, yoga, maybe, this is your hibernation period before your solar return, which is going to occur with a bang, because no, not the solar return. I'm sorry. The solar return is happening on the 23rd of this month. I was thinking of the solar eclipse. But yeah, so it's going to be happening a week later. And so that'll be the month before your birthday, where the sun is in the 12th house. So at the time, this is before that. This is the new moon in Virgo. And actually, come to think of it, this is a later degree new moon. So you've already had the sun in this house. You've already been you probably have been a little bit more contemplative and keeping to yourself. And anyway, on the 15th, the very next day, Mercury goes direct at 8 degrees of Virgo. So that is in that same area, the 12th house. Maybe you were having a lot of situations that you were kind of reflecting upon that have to do with how you kind of sabotage yourself. This could be that. This is the house of that, of self-undoing, which is self-sabotage. And now Mercury's direct. It will be leaving your 12th house shortly and going into your sign. Not this month, though, but in October. So just hold on there with a little bit more of the irrational influence with the 12th house that's more mystical. And when I say irrational or even impractical, that doesn't mean that I'm putting it down. It's just that sometimes people are trying to make their mind into this thing, and it's a little bit spaced out. It's a little bit ungrounded, and it feels heightened in terms of the person's intuition. But if they're trying to do something or solve an issue of a practical nature, they're going to have a lot of patience until it leaves that house. So Mercury direct, yeah. On the 23rd, the sun goes into Libra, but this is the fall equinox in the northern hemisphere. So this is spring in the southern hemisphere, the dying of the year, the birth of the year, depending on where you live. But definitely a power point. And so then we're going to start to get into relationship. Your house is highlighted, and that's good for you because that's, what you represent. And on the 29th, there's a full moon at 6 degrees of Aries, and that will be in your 7th house of committed partnership. So for some people, finding out something about their partner, like a secret or something, severing ties. For some, this can be the time that you commit with your partner, because you can't, you feel like you have to take, especially if you're living with them and you decide to get legally married. I think that would be one of the big scenarios, because you might think that that's enough for you, and then something happens that makes you question that, and so you might want to get legally married for whatever reason. Okay, that is what I have for you, Libra. I hope that this resonated. If you would like a private reading, I'm promoting my double readings. Well, now I have a triple reading that are package deals. The triple reading is everything that I offer like full-length readings. Well, not everything, because I have all types of astrological readings. But just for somebody who maybe has never had their chart read or they want another perspective, I have at least 1 hour of chart analysis. Then I have an hour of transits for the upcoming 12 months. Really great thing at this time for you because of either your impending birthday or if you're having it in September. And I mean, even in August, it's nice to know ahead of time about some of the themes that are coming up, because this is the time when people tend to think it's like their new year when the sun goes into their sign. Or if you're listening for Libra rising, when the sun goes into your first house, that can feel like a new cycle because it is a new cycle. So, those 2 astrological readings alone is my deep dive reading. And then when you combine it with the tarot, that is the whole enchilada. And then I have one with the tarot and the natal chart analysis as well. But then I have, love readings and life path / career readings, all that good stuff. You can find out more information at the link below. I'm at RainaMoonAstrology.com. Thank you for listening. Bye.